RedZoneSports.Bet, the British home of American sports.
Hello and welcome to the SportsHeads. Wildcard weekend is upon us. We're going to take a look through some of the big games, or all the big games in fact, this weekend. I'm Simon Millen from Lindy's Sports. We're in the studios of RedZoneSports.Bet. We're pleased to be joined by the co-founder of that wonderful organisation, Warren Lambias, and also Matt Phillips from 40yardscouting.com. We're going to take a look at the first of these games this weekend, the Kansas City Chiefs hosting the Tennessee Titans. Who we got, Matt?
I've got the Chiefs to win this game.
That's a surprise. He's a Chiefs fan. I mean,
I'm being a neutral here, but I do think the Chiefs will win this game. I think we've not really seen anything from Tennessee in the last 4 weeks. They've backed their way into the playoffs. Yeah. It's touch and go where they do it. One thing I would say is that can Mariota, now they let him be the Mariota we all know and love. Can he continue running the ball with that sort of stiff arm of his, which was so destructive in week 17. But also, Tennessee match up well against the run, so they may look to be able to keep Kareem Hunt in the running game quiet, but then against the pass, they're pretty poor.
We've been knocking Tennessee all season, really. I mean, we said at the start of the season they were going to be good, and then we sort of thought, man, actually they're quite average. They've gone 4-3 against teams with a record above 500, similar to the Kansas City Chiefs. Great start from the Chiefs, but are we going to see that team that we saw at the start of the season, or are we going to see the team that slumped, or are we going to see the team that bounced back were pretty average towards the end of the season?
Well, I think there's a question mark because of week 17, being able to play the second string against the first string of the Broncos. There's always that question of, do you risk guys' injury, particularly at high altitude? But also there's a kind of rustiness factor that might go with that. Are things going to be rolling as they were, particularly with Alex Smith? He was in such a good place the last 4 weeks. I think it's going to be a tight game because these games are one-offs.
It's not marriage material.
Yeah, no, that's it. No, I mean, I think as well. I think Tennessee don't deserve to be in the playoffs. Right. I think. I mean, you're dressed like a robber from New York arcade game in the 70s, and I think Tennessee have stole their place in the thing. I think Derrick Henry. I think the Chiefs might struggle to contain him, but I think apart from that, I think they are lucky to be in the playoffs. I think the Tennessee Titans, that is. I think the Chiefs are starting to get their groove. They had their little blip in the middle, and they might be the team that's coming into form at the right time because, as you say, winning a game with the second string is good. The bet I like in this actually is the unders. I mean, I've got it down as under 44.5. Let me just check. It's under 44 now. It's come down a little bit on our site, but I like unders. I think this will be a close game. I think low scoring game, but in the end, I just don't think Marcus Mariota is going to be able to deal with the Arrowhead crowd, and also just it's just a superior team. So I'm on the under. I think the Chiefs win the game. Do they cover? The spread's now 9 points. I'm not so sure about that.
Okay, just will say about the Titans in their sort of defence. They've won 4 of the last 5 at Arrowhead, but they've never won 3 consecutive. So they've won the last 2. It's whether or not, I know it's a betting type of.
Do you want to tell him as well that those stats mean absolutely nothing because it'll be about the guys on the pitch.
But I will say a good defence and a good running game does travel better than a hot quarterback.
Yep.
And that's going to be important for them.
And as I said, I think Henry could cause them some problems. So I like Kansas, and as I said, my bet would be the under.
Matt, we looked at briefly about the graphic earlier about the Titans' 4th-ranked run defence. Is that a stat that's sort of skewed because their cornerbacks aren't so great and everyone's passing against them?
I think it definitely goes into the mix of why that's the case. You always have to look beyond the numbers and why that's happening. They're definitely doing it in spite of their secondary.
So how would you, if you were Andy Reid, how would you attack them? Would you set the pass up to run, or would you run to pass? I mean, that's the interesting dynamic for me this week.
Well, I think on the first and second down, the Chiefs' bread and butter is to run the ball and to play power football. And then Kareem Hunt is obviously will do that and give you short yardage on 3rd down, and it's on 3rd downs where they can get the likes of Travis Kelce and Tyreek Hill, the big explosive plays. And I can't see that really not being the case this weekend. Tennessee do give up the big play, and particularly if they're going to single cover Tyreek Hill, that combination between Smith and Hill has been unstoppable at times. So
I think you make a good point as well, though. Talking about Andy Reid v Mike. Yeah, I know. I was surprised as much as the next person. Andy Reid versus Mike Mularkey. I would take Andy Reid every day, and I think that can't be underplayed. Andy Reid, I think will have.
Is Mularkey's? Quick question for you, Warren. Is Mularkey's job on the line?
No, I don't think so, because I think they've made the playoffs, and if you had said to the Tennessee Titans at the start of the season, target is to make the playoffs, they've done it. So I think he's safe. Yeah.
Yeah, you can't fire a coach for getting to the playoffs.
And also, you got to think there's a lot of decent jobs out there, and so if you end up on the market looking for a new coach at this time, I think there's better places to land as a head coach who's sought after than the Tennessee Titans.
Despite the fact they got Marcus Mariota, who's the first thing I'd look at is who you build your franchise around, and Mariota is one of those quarterbacks I would.
Oakland, you've got a couple of places. You've got Andrew Luck if he comes back. Yeah. So,
exactly. That's not to say Mularkey's off the hook. I think his performance personally has been pretty shaky.
I think he's on the hot seat personally.
And trying to shoehorn a dynamic talent like Mariota into a power run offense and telling him to just stay in the pocket, you're taking away most of his dangerous abilities.
Exactly. Okay, let's have a move on then to the one game that really fascinates me this wildcard weekend, the Atlanta Falcons at the Los Angeles Rams. Now, the Rams have been the surprise package. The Atlanta Falcons are the battle-hardened NFC champions, still holding on to their crown. Didn't necessarily back into the playoffs and had a hard road to get there. No Greg Zuerlein for the Rams. I think that plays into things.
I think that's huge, by the way. Yeah, I think that's really huge. I think the lines. Sorry, I've jumped in.
No.
I think the lines inflated on the Falcons, giving them 6.5 points.
Yeah.
I think the defense of the Rams has been great all season, but they're missing Webster, aren't they now? And I think that's going to weaken them significantly.
Yeah. That's fair enough.
And so I would, and I think Zuerlein, he gets a lot of their points. So I think taking him out of the equation, he is one of fantasy owners will know he's Greg the Leg. He's a great kicker, and we've seen many games this season being decided by having a substandard kicker. So I would be all over Falcons myself.
I worry, I do worry. I have pretty much all season about the Rams' inability to stop the run. I mean, do you think that plays into this with the Falcons running the ball well?
Yeah, because their defensive line is very much, when you talk about a talent like Aaron Donald, it's very much about playing uphill. It's attacking the quarterback. Yeah. I just think that in this game, you're looking at, I always tend to favour teams that have the experience. I think when you take the two teams, the matchups, I think that the Rams have got the greatest sort of options on offense. But I just think experience will tell. I mean, this is the first playoff game that the Rams have had at home in Los Angeles since '85. So, it's new territory for them, and they've gone so far in such a short amount of time. Atlanta have got that, as you say, they've earned their right to be there.
I mean, I suppose you look at that on the flip side, and you turn around and say, well, they're not going to be. They're going to play with with more freedom rather than lack of freedom. They're going to play with more freedom. They're not going to be as scared by something like that. They've not been in this position before. They've got a young team there. They've got some, good minds in the coaching staff. Wade Phillips, etc., etc.
Listen, it's Wade Phillips again. Is fantastic on defense. I'm like you. I think the Falcons needed to win last week. They did. And that again is going to give them a little bit of momentum. This is a team that is focused, and I just think that they've got a more balanced game. And again, the coaching might come down to it. He's everyone's loving it, but but it doesn't mean necessarily that he's got the experience yet built up over many years for this sort of game.
Does it bother you slightly, Warren, that the Falcons have scored less than 25 points in their last 5 games?
No, because I do think this is going to be a close game as well, which is why I like the 6.5 points. And I like the Falcons to win the game as well. I think they've still got some key weapons, Julio Jones and what have you. And I think the boys were saying back in the traders were saying that they think that the Rams defense is weakened more than people realise against the pass, and I fancy them to have some big plays at some point in the game without it being a big blowout, but at some point they will hit some.
I know you hate stats, I'm going to give you one anyway.
I don't mind a stat from this season.
A stat from this season, all right, stat from this season. I can provide you with a stat from this season. Every time the Falcons have scored 20 points or more, they've won. That's the key. They score more than 20 points, they win.
Yeah, the defense will carry them through. And I think the thing with the Falcons, there's some worries there. I mean, the fact that you've got Devonta Freeman had the most receptions last week is a huge question mark to me about that offense. And also Matt Ryan has had a down year by his own standards, and he needs to have a clean game. His interception to completion ratio is way down this year. So he needs to have a clean game for him to have a chance. But you say 20 points is not insurmountable for that offense.
Well, you look at the teams that they face as well. They're 5-5 against teams with a winning record. The Rams are 5-3 against teams with a winning record.
I mean, they beat the Saints, but they actually they gave up the yardage, didn't they? So the Rams struggle. Have been struggling against. I mean, I know they went to Seahawks, but the Seahawks aren't the team that. Of yesteryear, and so I think they might struggle against a good team. So
and a historical stat you absolutely hate, so I'm going to give you one of those as well.
Go on, give me one.
They've won the last 3 trips to LA. Now, one of them was in 1993, one of them was in 1994, and then of course they went to St. Louis.
And that says everything you need to know. The fact that he's talking about stats
from
92 and 93.
And they won there last year. They've also won 6 of the last 7 overall against the Rams. So maybe they've got their number. I don't know. Let's move on then, chaps. We've got 2 more games to go through. Buffalo Bills, they're 9-point underdogs going to Jacksonville. LaShawn McCoy, I think, is the obvious talking point here. The injured ankle, how fit is he going to be? And obviously the Bills are based around the run.
That's going to be key, isn't it? That's totally going to be key. And also there's a fear factor, I think, with Buffalo. With all the celebrating and we've seen the locker room and getting to the playoffs.
They're on the road again as well.
And breaking that streak in US sports and getting to the playoffs. You just worry that, I just hope that team doesn't have that sort of mentality thinking, okay, we've done it now, we're here, we're happy to be here.
I don't think that's the case.
I don't think that's the case. The Sean McCoy is a need for them to be back.
I've picked the Jags here. I don't think that.
It's a big spread, though.
Yeah,
it's unusual for you to go for a big spread.
No, it is, but it's the playoffs, so I've got to make a choice in the game. So you got one right last week, and you weren't even here.
Wow.
Yeah, I gave you picking the Patriots minus whatever it was, 16.5 points, and you came in. So I think there's the Bills game. I think is gonna play into the Jags. The Jags at the moment, I'm worried about the Jags. A couple of weeks ago, I was like, these are my favourite guys for the Super Bowl. I got given by my business partner a Secret Santa bet for the Jags from the Super Bowl, and I thought it was a great Secret Santa. Yeah, it was. Yeah, but now I'm a little bit worried. They've lost a bit of momentum, but I do think that if you're, the Bills can trying to run on the Jags, which is the Jags' weakness, but there is absolutely no passing game from the Bills, so that means the Jags can afford to load the box, and I think that will stump them. And I think you'll see the Jags win the game. Yeah,
they're going to have to contain Tyrod Taylor, in his scrambling ability, which is always kind of overlooked. But I just think when you're talking about Jacksonville, I totally agree with you. The old habits are back.
Yeah.
We're seeing bad Bortles was back.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes the biggest question of teams is when they're not used to success and suddenly they have that success. You look at the team's character and how they respond to that. And what we've seen is that they've stopped doing the things that made them successful early on. And that's a big worry.
Okay. And talk to me a little bit about the job that Rick Dennison's done in Buffalo, the offensive coordinator, because he hasn't had a hell of a lot to work with. I mean, they got rid of the likes of Robert Woods, they got rid of Sammy Watkins, and they've been left with Tyrod Taylor as a quarterback, who, best will in the world, he's not the most pure passer in the world. He uses a lot of scrambling ability, etc. I think they've done a phenomenal job, personally. The stats don't show it, but they've been competitive.
Considering the personnel, they've done a fantastic job to get the kind of offensive production that they have, and enough to win games. And again, they are built on their defense. And
they're in a division with Pats. Do you know what I mean? So that's exactly. I think they've done well. I mean, I worry for the Jags in this game. If the Bills jump to an early lead, the Jags aren't really built to catch up,
but
and that's
you can
my
say
worry.
exactly the same thing about the Bills.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's going to be a run fest, and I do worry with the Bills. They gave up 80-point differential. They were playing the likes of, the mid-season. That 3-game stretch. Admittedly, they used Peterson as a quarterback, but Jets, Saints, and Chargers, and they were blown out in those 3 games.
Jacksonville are going to have to get the most out of their running game, and Fournette's going to have to run much better than he has in the last 3 weeks.
Yeah, I fear for the Bills if McCoy's not fit. But I mean, they've in the last 6 visits, stat for you, last 6 visits they've gone win, loss, win, loss, win, loss. And
means nothing, means nothing. Means
they're going to win.
Yeah.
There could be the upset. If we're looking for an upset, I mean, there's a statistical anomaly there.
It's a big line for me. I don't normally take a -9, but if I've got to make a call in this game, I would say the Jags cover the line.
Okay.
I hate making that call, by the way.
Yeah, I'm going to go the other way. I'm going with Buffalo to win this game.
To win the game?
Yeah.
Wow, to win the game. I'm impressed with that one. Okay.
I think that's an account opening job, isn't it?
No, I mean, I think we got 33-10 for us, so you can have that with us. But yeah,
okay. You're worried now. Carolina Panthers are 7-point underdogs going to the New Orleans Saints. Now, in 21 previous meetings where teams have met each other in the preseason twice, and they've gone off when they've won both games in regular season, and they've met in the playoffs, 14 of them have been won by the team that won those games. Yep. So you're looking at a 66.6% batting average as far as the Saints go in this game.
And I was really, really disappointed with Cam Newton in the second half last week.
Threw a lot of passes high, his footwork's off for me.
Yeah, I backed the Panthers last week, and I was disappointed in his display. Now maybe it was because they'd already qualified for the playoffs. I don't know what it was, but it's a high line for me. I like the Saints. I think the Saints are a really well balanced team. I think we've got one of the shortest prices out there for the Saints to win the Super Bowl, because I think Steve Ballmall, my business partner, director for trading, he fancies the Saints. He thinks they're good value, so I think we're a shorter price on them and bigger price than everyone else. So I'm going to pick the Saints -7. That said, as I left the two traders, it was Steve and his number 2, Darmish. They were arguing. They disagreed who's going to win.
It's exactly the right line.
So that means the line's perfect. Yeah. So you're taking this as a coin toss. I would normally say give me Panthers +7. I just think that after Cam Newton's performance last week, I fancied the Saints to blow them away.
Carolina are 5-3.
Well, blow them away, not blow them away, but
to cover the spread.
Yeah.
Well, they've covered the spread both times this season, so there's no reason why they wouldn't again, and they've won it fairly emphatically as well. I look at Carolina, and they're 5-3 against teams with a winning record. And you've got to remember, they went to Foxborough and won. They've also beaten Minnesota. So they're not, by any stretch of the imagination, backing into the playoffs.
No, and he's sorry. I'm talking about. He's no, sorry. I'm talking. Sorry. I've talked over you. I'm talking about. Stop. And whatever you say about Cam Newton, he's one of those. I find him little frustrating. Yeah, he's a Marmite character. You're absolutely right. That he's got such a huge ego that he wouldn't put it past him to be absolutely dire one week.
You tell me a quarterback that hasn't got a huge ego. But I get your point. Carolina have been competitive all the way through the season, but they've won 8 games by a 1-score margin, or less than a 1-score margin. Right, yeah. So, how good are they? Because they're always they're a really annoying team if you're back in the other side, because you just think, they're going to do us in a minute. It's one of those, they're always competitive in those games.
Yeah, they're a pretty solid team all round, aren't they? I mean, the problem I have, obviously we talked about Cam Newton, the last 2 weeks he's only been completing 50% of his passes, which he's kind of fallen off a cliff, hasn't he, from where he was, ever since they were playoff eligible. I just think they just don't, for me, have an identity. They've not found identity all season on offense.
On offense, I agree.
I really feel that, and on defense as well. But given the talent that they have on that defense, they just haven't made the most of it, and they've not played up to it. It's just something missing there for me on both sides of the ball. I just think when they come up against a New Orleans Saints side that can put points up on the board, and they rush the ball really well, and they're just a very dynamic offense. I just think when it comes to if it's going to come to a shootout, then you're always going to go to the Saints.
Yeah. Well, you trust Drew Brees, especially at home. He's never lost a home playoff game, which is a key factor for me. The Saints have won 3 of the last 4 as well. They might have their number. I'm sort of on the fence. I think the line's absolutely right. That's
clearly. But
it's a difficult.
Having the guys
call
in the back office there argue about what side I should come and pretend that I'm making these picks for. No, it's they are mine. Believe me, they're much better pickers than me.
I'm very impressed with you actually taking high lines, and you've been Mr. Contradiction all season. You've gone for the.
Well, I have to pick. I wouldn't pick these games.
The low lines, and they're not taking that big line, and then you've got to go and you've got to take all the big lines.
Yeah, I have been a bit of a favourite person this week, but it's the wild card teams, and I think there's a couple of teams in there that are lucky to be in the playoffs.
Okay, great stuff. Matt Phillips, 40yardscouting.com. Pleasure as always. Warren Lambias, co-founder of RedZoneSports.com. Thanks for these wonderful studios. We've had a blast of a season here. It's been fantastic.
You're coming back next week, yeah?
I hope so, yeah. I'm Simon Millen from Lindy's Sports. That was the wildcard weekend prognostications. We'll see you soon. Take care. Bye-bye.
American football and my hot cheerleaders. It'll make you feel like a Yank. RedZoneSports.Bet, the British home of American sports.